First up is the core combo of the build. This build revolves around the very simple 3 skill sequence: takedown, kill command, and boomstick. Everything else exists purely to support this interaction. All 3 of these abilities deal physical damage, which is often considered one of the weakest damage types in the current environment. However, overwhelming base damage and minimal complexity is exactly why this setup has started to dominate the current battleground meta. For hero talents, Pack Leader is the recommended choice. The entire synergy comes from its capstone talent, Stampede, which fundamentally changes how this combo works. When Stampede is selected, casting Takedown grants Howl of the Pack Leader. This buff primes your next kill command, causing it to automatically trigger Stampede on your target. Once Stampede is active, this build enters its kill window. During this window, enemies are pressured by constant pet damage and disruption, while your own abilities become significantly more lethal. This is where Boomstick comes in. While Stampede is active, Boomstick shifts from a setup tool into a finisher. In practice, the loop is straightforward. You initiate with Takedown, trigger Stampede through the kill command, and then use empowered boomstick shots to finish the target while Stampede is still active. Before we go into the key talents, a quick message from today's sponsor, SkyCoach. If you ever felt stuck in WoW, whether that's PvP or PvE, or just figuring out what you should actually be improving, SkyCoach is designed to help with exactly that. Instead of blindly copying builds or guessing what went wrong, you get guidance that's tailored to your character, your gameplay, and your goals. What really makes SkyCoach stand out is the one-on-one coaching. A high-level player goes through your gameplay with you, offers live feedback, and walks you through your replays and logs so you can clearly see what needs to change and what you are already doing right. SkyCoach also offers a wide range of WoW services, making it useful whether you are trying to catch up after a break or just want to enjoy the game more without unnecessary frustration. They are trusted by more than 150,000 players worldwide. They also provide professional support across several other popular games too. Make sure to use the promo code shown below to get the most out of SkyCoach and take your gameplay to the next level. Let's take a closer look at the talents that directly affect Boomstick. Right below Boomstick in the talent tree is Quick Reload, which reduces Boomstick's cooldown by 15 seconds. This talent alone already brings the cooldown to a very comfortable range and is more than enough for most situations. If you want to push the cooldown even further, you can also take Lethal Calibration. This talent reduces Boomstick's cooldown by 2 seconds every time you use Wildfire Bomb, up to a maximum of 10 additional seconds, allowing Boomstick to be used as frequently as every 35 seconds. Lethal Calibration also has strong synergy with talents like Wildfire Shells and Wildfire Infusion. These talents work in the opposite direction by reducing Wildfire Bomb's cooldown. Wildfire Shells lowers the cooldown by 2 seconds whenever you use Boomstick, while Wildfire Infusion further reduces it each time you cast Kill Command. Together, these interactions create a feedback loop where Boomstick and Wildfire Bomb continuously shorten each other's cooldowns, enabling a much faster and more aggressive rotation if you choose to lean into that setup. Personally, however, I chose not to take this option. Instead, I invested those points into Explosive Expert, which increases Boomstick's damage by 10%. The reason for this is simple. Rather than forcing Boomstick into a shorter rotation, I prefer to align it naturally with Takedown, which has a 1-minute cooldown. In that context, further reducing Boomstick's cooldown isn't strictly necessary, and increasing its damage provides more consistent value during the Stampede kill window. In short, this build prioritizes impact over frequency. Fewer Boomstick casts, but each one hits significantly harder and fits cleanly into the core combo. With that philosophy in mind, it makes sense to invest into talents that directly amplify Boomstick's damage, such as Shell Shock and Vulnerability. Rather than increasing how often Boomstick is used, these talents focus on maximizing the value of every single shot. Shell Shock in particular is a standout talent in this setup. When Boomstick hits a single target, Shell Shock increases its damage by 40%, turning Boomstick into a true burst finisher. In practice, it feels less like a regular ability and more like taking a point-blank shotgun blast to the face. At this point, the synergy should be fairly obvious. Yes, this setup also scales extremely well with critical strike. Because of that, it's worth investing into hunter talents like Serrated Tips and Keen Eyesight to further improve crit efficiency. Yes, critical strike damage is reduced from 200% to 150% in PvP, but even with that reduction, crit remains extremely valuable in this setup. Personally, I've been prioritizing mastery, and there is a very clear reason for that. When you execute the core combo, takedown into Boomstick, you are always firing at close range, right next to your pet. Because of that, you are able to take full advantage of mastery's effect in every single kill attempt. At the moment, my mastery sits at 46%. That already translates into roughly 45% increased damage against targets, but when you're attacking while stacked with your pet, that bonus effectively jumps to nearly 90% increased damage. And yes, that's exactly as absurd as it sounds. This is why mastery works so well for this build. As for haste, it primarily affects Boomstick's channeling time. With my current setup at around 8% haste, this is what Boomstick's channel looks like. And now, this is channeling speed after pushing haste all the way up to 35%. As you can see, even after sacrificing a significant amount of other stats to gain an extra 27% haste, the difference is fairly minimal. The channel is only slightly faster, there are no additional ticks, and the overall impact doesn't change in any meaningful way. Because of that, I don't see much value in heavily investing into haste for this build. Instead, I strongly recommend focusing on mastery and critical strike, which directly amplify Boomstick's damage and have a much more noticeable effect in real combat. And ultimately, this also comes down to class fantasy. For a shotgun style ability like Boomstick, I prefer each shot to feel heavy and deliberate, rather than fast and lightweight. As for race, since this build is centered around short, explosive burst damage, races with burst oriented ratios naturally have an advantage. On the Horde side, Orcs and Maghar Orcs are strong choices, and on the Alliance side, Dark Iron Dwarves fit the build just as well. These races all have ratios like Blood Fury, Ancestral Call, or Fireblood, which provide immediate damage increases and line up perfectly with Boomstick's kill window. That said, I am currently playing a human hunter. Part of that is for lore reasons, but there is also a very practical PvP benefit. Humans can rely on will to survive to break crowd controls, which means you are no longer locked into using a medallion. Instead, you can run two offensive trinkets, usually haste and critical strike, further amplifying your burst potential. Is that risky? Maybe. But if the enemy dies before they can kill you, there is really nothing to worry about. Now, I did mention that takedown, kill command, and boomstick is your main combo, but there are a few setup tools you can use beforehand to push the damage even further. The first one is Hunter's Mark, which increases the damage the target takes by 3%. It's a small bonus on paper, but since this build is all about stacking multipliers before a burst window, it's always worth applying. Next is the Tip of the Spear. Each kill command increases the direct damage of your abilities by 15%, stacking up to 3 times. By taking the Primal Surge talent, this bonus is increased by an additional 5%, bringing each stack up to 20% increased damage. When you cast kill command, Tip of the Spear stacks are applied, and that 20% damage increase affects both takedown and boomstick. Because of Primal Surge, a single kill command immediately grants 2 stacks of Tip of the Spear. For that reason, it's highly recommended to pre-cast kill command before committing to your core combo. If tracking Tip of the Spear feels awkward or distracting, you can use my setup as a reference. Personally, I try to stick to the default WoW UI as much as possible. I'm not a big fan of stacking tons of add-ons, so this is the simplest and the cleanest solution I've found without adding any extra clutter. In the default UI, open cooldown manager, then go into advanced cooldown settings. From there, navigate to buffs and track bars, and simply drag Tip of the Spear into the list. Once it's there, you will be able to track the buff state clearly and consistently during combat. To summarize the rotation, Hunter's Mark, Kill Command, Takedown, Kill Command, and Boomstick. If you layer this combo with consumables, such as salt water potions that temporarily increase your damage by 30%, or a berserker buff picked up directly from the battleground, the result is straightforward. In most cases, the enemy won't survive long enough to respawn. They'll be on the ground before your combo even finishes. Then does this build have any real weaknesses? Honestly, not many. The burst coming from takedown alone is already extremely high, which means fully shutting down this combo is harder than it might seem. The transition from kill command into takedown is completely instant and requires no cast time at all. Once that sequence starts, there's very little room to interrupt it. That said, if there is a window to respond, it's during Boomstick's channel. When the Boomstick channel begins, that's your cue to either apply crowd control or move out of range as fast as possible. Unlike the rest of the combo, Boomstick can be avoided. If you step out of its line or break the channel in time, you can deny the final, most lethal part of the burst. Other than that, the main thing you need to watch out for is another survival hunter. Anything you can do with this build, they can do to you as well. If you let your guard down, you can be deleted in one clean sequence before you even realize what happened. What can I say? In a mirror match, there's really no mystery to it. Whoever shoots first wins. There are a few weaknesses worth mentioning, but these aren't really flaws of the build itself. They are limitations shared by pet-based classes in general. Maps with a lot of vertical terrain, such as Temple of Kotmogu or Silver Shard Mines, tend to be more difficult to play on. Unlike players, pets cannot instantly drop down or reposition vertically, and will often take long pathing routes instead. Because of that, there are situations where your pet ends up far away, or you temporarily lose track of it altogether. And for survival hunters, this is especially frustrating, since the build performs best when you are fighting close to your pet. It's not a Boomstick problem, but it is something you always need to be aware of on maps where terrain works against your pet. As for the playstyle, Survival Hunter is a very unique class, a true melee and ranged hybrid. The key is to fully lean into that identity. You want to be comfortable moving in and out of combat freely. When the situation is favorable, you commit and pressure hard. When it's not, you disengage immediately and create distance. This constant decision making, knowing when to step in and when to back out, is where the class really shines. Because of that flexibility, survival hunters are also exceptionally strong in 1v1 situations. And don't forget, thanks to Shell Shock, you are dealing 40% increased damage in single target fights. Trust me, you don't have to be afraid of anyone or any class. If your team needs someone to handle side objectives or special assignments, this build performs extremely well in that role.